Now, the Professor of Economics at King's College London, Jonathan Portes, joins me now to crunch the numbers. Jonathan, this is the thing. On the whole, I want to know from you, is immigration a good thing for our economy or not? And I want to caveat here. Let me be clear. What I'm talking about is illegal immigration. We seem to, as a country, be spending so much to sort it out, don't we?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, we should be clear that migration overall is an important driver of growth and productivity in the UK economy. So more than 1 in 6 of the UK population was originally born abroad. So that's a sixth of the whole economy, because on average, actually, people coming from abroad produce more than the average Brit does. So that's more than a sixth of the whole economy. That's, compared to the sort of numbers you're talking about, that's literally hundreds of billions of pounds. We're talking about 400 billion pounds or so. So far in excess of the sort of numbers you're talking about is due to the contribution of people who at one point or another migrated here. So overall, migration is clearly good for the UK economy. Obviously, irregular migration is not necessarily good for the UK economy because, we have rules and laws. We should, first of all, though, be clear that people who cross the channel are not illegal immigrants, right? They are not necessarily. They may be coming through irregular means, but if they claim asylum...
With respect, Jonathan, with respect, there is a difference between they might be or there might not be. This is the big issue. If we can just cut to the chase, my friend.
And we have the number. You asked for numbers, so I'm going to give you numbers, right? Okay, let's have numbers. So the vast majority of people who cross the channel irregularly claim asylum on arrival, and the vast majority of those, these are Home Office statistics, which you can look up for yourself, the vast majority of those are found to have a legitimate claim of refugee status. They come from countries like Iraq, like Afghanistan, countries where we, of course, have been involved in wars and which remain unstable. They come here, they come irregularly, but they typically, because they have family connections, they claim refugee status, and they are typically eventually granted some form of refugee status.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Stay there one second. I am trying to jump in for a second. Can I bring in Henry Bolton, who's sitting there shaking his head? Henry, I'm not the expert. You are, former leader of the UKIP, also Tony Smith, former head of UK Border Force. I'm trying to say that the British people, in their hundreds of thousands, in their millions, right, either don't understand what Jonathan Portes is talking about, because what they're thinking is, we are opening our borders to Albanian men who seem to come across, disappear into our society. It costs this country so much money. I get told that they do jobs that the people on the dole can't do. What I'm trying to say to people is, we're really struggling at the moment, and the British people have had enough of this. Do you understand that?
Look, Jeremy, I totally agree. And let's look at this for a moment. Albanians are the biggest drugs traffickers in Europe. OK, so the cost, talking cost figures, have they been calculated? The cost to the British public and the British taxpayer of the importation of cocaine and heroin, which the Albanians are heavily involved with. The other thing is the impact on society itself is a cost. And whether we're talking housing, whether we're talking impact on local services, because you can bring in immigrants, but if you're not going to increase the public services, policing, hospitals, schools and so on, local government correspondingly, then you're going to put pressure on the local communities. And people feel that, and they see this change. So it's not just about the numbers, and it's not just about...
Well, actually, let me do that, if I can. People watching this, talkTV viewers and listeners, who are saying, I can't afford my electricity bill, and I'm tuning on every day, hear me out, and I'm seeing illegal immigrants landing in boats. Let's get past that they're coming from war-torn France, because we showed ourselves as a country what we could do during the Ukraine crisis, because we helped people who needed it. We are right, are we not, in saying, if I said 100 to you, how many are illegal and how many are illegal?
Well, that's very difficult to say, Jeremy, but one of the things that annoyed me about what we've just heard, frankly, is that there is this assumption that just because they're granted asylum, it does not mean to say that they actually have a legitimate cause. Who is granting them asylum? People who don't know anything about the country of origin that these people have come from, who probably don't have a Scooby about organised crime and the people smuggling processes, don't have a clue about Albanian and Albanian organised crime and what's going on here. They're simply processing the paperwork and trying to do so in the fastest, most efficient manner.
Tony Smith, former head of the UK Border Force, the ideal man to speak to. What I've never understood and what people out here would want me to say is, why are we so useless at doing this? Why do we not have a better system in place? This is not something that has just crept on us, up on us. It's something that's concerned many people for many years. Why is it so flawed?
So, Jeremy, the Border Force get beaten up quite a lot, actually, and I'm here to defend them. There's a lot of officers watching this programme, probably. The Border Force have to act within the law, within the confines of the law, like any other agency. When I was an immigration officer, if someone came up the beach, I was empowered to arrest them, detain them and remove them from the territory. I didn't have to apply for a passport for them. I'd give a notice to the captain of the aircraft, a notice to the chief immigration officer at the other end. That's how it used to. This was in the 70s, well after the 51 conventions were signed. What's happened in the last 20, 30 years, there's been a complete change in the legal frameworks under which we have to operate. So if someone can get within the jurisdiction, whether that's on a small boat or arrive at an airport without a passport, and they're in the jurisdiction of the UK courts, they can either claim asylum or they can claim human rights, or even now with the Albanians, it's usually claimed to be a victim of trafficking.
Legal jurisdiction is controlled by the government. So successive governments have avoided doing anything to avoid preventing illegal immigrants coming into this country. Let me bring Jonathan Portes back in. Jonathan, Henry and Tony would disagree with you. What would you say in terms of that? I mean, you said migrants help the economy. How can they when they're costing the economy so much money?
Well, because migrants overall work and pay taxes. Migrants pay in more to the public purse, to the treasury, in taxes than they take in public services and benefits. Overall, the most recent estimate...
But that's legal migration, right? What about illegal migration?
Illegal migrants actually probably, on balance, also contribute more, because illegal migrants can't claim benefits.
They don't pay taxes, man. Henry, help me out. It doesn't make sense.
Wait, Jeremy, let me just be clear. You're wrong here. Quite a few irregular migrants do pay taxes. We have plenty of evidence on this. I mean, if you want an expert to tell you, to actually inform you about what really happens, you might let me speak. So it is actually perfectly feasible for irregular migrants.
Listen, we've got 33,000 people. We're on track probably to close to 40,000 this year. That is more, I'm not saying they're soldiers, but that's more people than we have combat troops in the British Army and Royal Marines combined. It's a huge number. We're accommodating them. We're paying for a great deal of processing, whether it's paying for Border Force or whatever, the immigration service, the accommodation, the hotels. It's a huge amount of money. And the public are rightly upset about this. There's no ifs or buts. And what you're not calculating in your figures, and I would like you to tell me that I'm wrong, is the cost to the British public of the criminality that is involved. I was advisor to the Albanian Prime Minister. I know very well what the impact of Albanian organised crime is. I'm also a former police officer. It is incalculable, but it is massive. And they are the biggest traffickers of cocaine and heroin in this country. What is the cost of that to the taxpayer?
The cost of crime and drugs, of course, the human cost more than the economic cost, is very substantial. I think you will find that the UK has had drug addiction issues for rather longer than Albanians have been controlling the trade. There has always been gangs that control the drug trade in this country. We don't have a significantly worse drugs problem. It's just a different drugs problem than we had 10 years or 20 years ago. Again, there's plenty of statistics on this. But unless, of course, we could, if we wanted to, close the borders entirely to everybody, to people, to goods. That, and put all our resources into patrolling the English Channel and keeping out everything. And of course, Brexit has made it harder for us to trade with the EU, and that is part of the problem.
Jonathan, thank you for that.
That would be
sorry, I've just got
to.
Sorry, Jonathan, I'm not cutting you in for a reason. Just a couple of comments. Sue says it's disgusting the amount of money illegal immigrants are costing this country, not to mention the risk to security and crime. I'm at a loss why they seem to have a free hand. Steve says, I think a text, I just saw the figures for the illegal channel crossers. Yet yet the same people who support them moan about the cost of the royal family, £5 million a day. Finally, you, Tony Smith, former head of the UK Border Force. Look, I'm not here to criticise the men and women. The laws need to change. Do they know, do your colleagues know when somebody's legal or illegal?
Well, it's clear enough to us. Yes, it is. but you know, I think the point is we need to stop the boats, don't we?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we should all be trying to do? We can talk about the economics of this and the money and the financials. These are smuggling gangs operating across our channel. These are criminal gangs loading people in. People are going to drown. More people are drowning, and people are really struggling in Manston now, Jeremy. We've got 5,000 people in there. Serious unrest. We're having to call Kent Police out quite often. Where are they going to go? The hotels are filling up. The local authorities are not stepping forward. We have to stop the boats. That's the debate we should be having. How are we going to stop the boats? And I really hope this government can do that.
And Jeremy,
I've literally got 10 seconds. Go.
Understood. The government has no proper strategy for dealing with
Are you
this.
listening, Rishi? You said you're going to make it work.
There are those of us out there who have absolutely the credentials. Tony, myself, other people, we are willing to help for free.
OK, Rishi, you heard it. Right, next. Thank you, gentlemen, so much.